Hey, welcome to Coram Deo podcast. My name is Pastor Samuel. I'm one of your hosts, and this is the main man, Philip.
Yep.
He is the second host today, and our lovely Tabitha, who does technology things, is not here today. She lost all of her energy. She hasn't been feeling good this week. So pray for her, because prayer is powerful. Yeah, welcome. You have made it. And today, actually, what are we going to talk about today?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Well, we are doing Purity Month.
We are.
Here at Coram Deo Youth. So it's probably a good time to change the subject.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel as if we have gone very in depth on the cross and the resurrection. Mm-hmm. Like I've always said, you can never stop talking about it, because the longer you are following Jesus, the more you realize how much that actually changes you. So there will probably be a resurrection of that conversation later in our podcast viewing and discussions. But yeah, so today we started, because it's March 1st on a Wednesday, which is a special thing in my heart, because on March 1st in 2017, Rachel decided to be my girlfriend.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's been a special day in my heart ever since. And it was a Wednesday night. I was in charge of a home group. And I came back and she's like, let's have a talk. And I was like, oh, man, she's going to reject me. Here we go. Friend zone yet again. But she said, let's go. And I was like, what? So anyway, this is a very special day for me. I actually forgot about it until I was like, wait, it's March 1st. And I only remembered that because Mandalorian Season 3 came out. And then I was like, wait, it's March 1st and it's Wednesday. Ah! So anyway.
Thank you, Star Wars.
Yeah, thank you, Star Wars, for the reminder. And that was maybe a little too much information, but I think you all appreciate it. You appreciate that little nugget of the story in my life. But anyway, March, we decided, is going to be Purity Month. We're talking about purity with the youth group, and we're doing a 40-day journal to help along with that. So we're working through that book with them. And so today was our first day. I think it went pretty well.
I think it did too. Yeah. I mean, awkwardness aside, I think it went really well.
There's always awkwardness when it comes to purity. And you know what? It never actually ends being awkward the older you get. I actually think that it gets more awkward the older you get and you haven't actually wrestled with it.
That sounds factual. 'Cause like I think with that, there is a lie that it will go away. And so when it doesn't go away,
right.
It's like, oh, did I do something wrong?
Yeah, we just don't actually talk about it. And then we think that it's better.
Right.
Or like it did go away. No, it didn't go away. You just never talk about it. So we have a whole, and I actually apologized to the kids today for that very reason. Because what's happened with the subject of purity and sexuality, because they are extremely connected. You can't have the whole subject of purity is about sexuality, so you can't talk about purity and not talk about sex. Right. He said it. He said it.
Nope, gotta bleep it.
Oh, where is it? Oh, where is it?
No,
oh, nope, not that button. Oh my gosh, not that.
It is so far from what you wanted. I think it's on the bottom. I think it's red. Here, scroll till you find red on the bottom. Or is it the blue one? I think it's red. I guess it was red.
Where's the bleeper?
I thought it was red. No, not that one. Hold up.
Oh,
it's pink.
It's pink.
It's pink.
That works for today. Okay. So we were talking about, because with purity, like purity and are inseparable. So,
right.
But I apologize to the kids today because what's happened over the years is that the church has been extremely silent on the subject of sexuality. We've shouted about purity and told them, don't do this, but we have not actually given them proper amount of information, given them a space to actually have questions, or give them a space to have healthy conversations of like, okay, I'm actually struggling with this. And so, I mean, growing up for me, that was very much a part of my church experience where, like, I'm going to say another word that we all blush about. Well, I don't, because I don't care, but some of us still blush about, and that is, now everyone's wondering what it is, but I'm still going to, and I'm just going to make it even more suspenseful, and I'll steal, just kidding. Do you guys want to know? Do you want to know?
I probably already know.
Probably already know. You probably already know. But like, I'm struggling with masturbation,
Right.
like all this stuff, like that, like everyone literally will struggle with. Like every young man, probably, like, I bet you 10 out of 10. Like most statistics will back me up on that. That almost everyone struggles with this. Yet we don't build a culture where it's a safe place to have a conversation with somebody.
Right.
And so what happens is there's an extreme void of this information within the church and within with youth culture in Christianity. And it's a huge problem because the world now gets to rule this conversation. And that happens every time the church backs down from an area. And I actually think it's the same in a lot of respects with different subjects like money, politics, like all these very important subjects that we have deemed shameful or evil, or things that we don't talk about that here. Yet everyone knows it's a thing. So, but who rules this conversation now for our children is the world, for our kids, which is crazy. And to think that it's such a bad strategy because the world is talking about it every minute. Like, especially now, 2023, everything is sexualized. Literally everything. Story time at the library is now being sexualized, right? And we're still wanting to live in this bubble of like, oh, we don't need to talk about this right now.
Like somehow not talking about it will cover it up and
Right.
then make it disappear.
Right.
It's like, nah.
Right.
Like, all you're doing is hiding a whole statue with a rug. You're putting a rug on it.
Right.
you look stupid.
Yeah.
doing it.
It's completely like, it's just not working because the only thing you're doing is hiding God's truth about sexuality and purity from your children. And you're giving them over to the devil's idea of what sexuality is. Like a baffling statistic to me was that 1 out of 10 9 through 11-year-olds are already addicted to pornography. 9 through 11-year-olds are already 1 out of 10. And that was a few years ago. I bet you by now it's a higher number. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Like I think that probably is a low number. So we're losing this conversation because we're just not even having it. And we've made it shameful, and we made it something that we don't want to talk about. And like, sure, it's awkward, but it's only awkward because we're not actually deciding, you know what, this is important.
It's selfish, really.
It is selfish because we're actually keeping ourselves comfortable instead of like looking out for our youth, for our kids. And it's like, yeah, but it needs to be appropriate. And the Bible is actually very full of sexuality. Today I read 2 Samuel 11. And it's all about King David having an affair because he was watching some lady bathe. Like, dude, that's in the Bible. The Bible is it talks about this subject a lot. And God has an idea about it. And he actually celebrates healthy sexuality. He talks about it was his idea. And so when we we're not telling them the truth about it, they are only being fed the lie at a ridiculous rate. And the law of first mention is that if you hear something first from a source, you're going to believe that over. It could be a complete lie, but because you heard that version the first time, you're going to want to believe that. It's more work to get them to believe the actual truth. So we're setting our children up. Listen, like some of you watching this may have kids that are like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever, and you're like, oh, we have time. You don't. You actually don't. You don't have time. They're already getting opportunities. Listen, I have a 3-year-old at home, and I thought, you know what? I'll just put on YouTube, and it'll be fine. The commercials, bro. Like, it's so upsetting to me. The commercials that will come up. I'm like, what is this? This is a kid's video. We don't actually have that luxury that we have. Maybe 40 years ago, we had the luxury of that we could keep our kids away from those things. Culturally, we had more respect for that. But even still then, there was opportunity. But it was a completely different world 40 years ago.
Right.
Nobody had access. Like our kids, kids are in the grocery store with iPads in the grocery cart. I'm like, dude, this is weird. But they have access, and the ads that come up on these games, just because it's a kid's program, we think, oh, it's safe. Guys, it's not as safe as we would suppose that it was. Like, it's not like it was when you were kids, when I was kid. Well, I mean, even when you were a kid, it's drastically different.
Right.
We desperately need to be having these conversations, and we really need to actually make that a cultural norm where it's like today, I was like, okay, how many of you actually have had a conversation about purity? How many kids raised their hands? Nobody. There was 10 kids? Close to 10-ish?
Yeah.
7 to 10 kids? None. Nobody raised their hand. And they all said they were Christians. This is bad. This is a bad thing. This is a bad idea. That we don't even have these conversations of what does purity look like? What does purity mean? It's not just about pornography. It's not just about not having sex. Something my wife and I talk about all the time. It's how do you just be oh yeah, oops, I slipped up, I had an affair. It's no, you don't just all of a sudden fall into, there's a lot of steps in between. And so we need to start having this be a part of our conversations with youth kids, with our kids, with each other, even adults in the church.
Right.
This is not the norm, and it desperately needs to be the norm. Because if that's the statistics for kids, 1 out of 10, dude, I would love to know the statistic for what the real number is now. And that statistic is not just males. Because I think one of the big things that people believe is that only men struggle with pornography. Right. It's not true. Girls are being extremely sexualized at this point where I think people would be extremely shocked about facts and statistics if you actually looked it up. So I think, that's one of the reasons why I was no, we're going to have a purity month. Last year we did a purity retreat, and it was good, I think. I mean, we had some revelations there, but there was a lot. I mean, every kid at that retreat was somehow affected.
Right.
You remember? There was nobody in that retreat that hadn't been exposed to pornography, to promiscuity, or some kind of sexual thing. And they weren't that old. I think the oldest was 16 or something.
Right.
You know what I mean? This is happening. And the church is really doing nothing. It's kind of a crisis.
Right. And it's one thing to realize and open yourselves up to the fact that you need to have that conversation. And it's another thing to this was floating in my head and now I'm trying to get it out. To like not bash it, because like like growing up, I can't remember early youth, like me going to youth group. I can't remember any time where purity was brought up. I can remember little moments later on, but it was always just this taboo topic.
Right.
And it's so I don't know. Like we got to understand, like, it's okay to be uncomfortable. Like being uncomfortable is not a bad thing.
Yeah, like what we talked about last week. Like we literally, like when we were talking about the cross and the resurrection, we actually really need to be uncomfortable.
Right, and this is connected to it. Purity is connected to it. Being uncomfortable. Like start with yourself. All right, start with yourself. Because to have this conversation is going to be uncomfortable. So before you even try and start with somebody else, because the temptation of fear to block you from speaking is going to be so loud. Yeah. So start with yourself, okay? Like what questions do you have about sexuality and just purity and stuff like that? And getting, like, if you're adult, like getting connected to somebody that you feel safe. You were talking about that. And I think that's one thing that feels like kiddie and shameful, I think. Like I could be wrong, but I feel like talking to an adult about stuff like that kind of feels like shame, like, oh, I should have had this already. Right. I should have had this conversation as a kid. Yeah. And yeah, you're right, but you didn't miss the bus. Yeah. Like, it's not too late, dude. Like, go ahead. Like, find somebody you feel safe with and that you can talk about this stuff too. Then you can start, then with those tools equipped, you can start having those conversations with the kids and stuff like that. I don't know where I was going with this.
Great points, though.
It's great points. Yeah, just making
not bashing it. You were saying
not bashing it. Right. Because a lot of traditional Christianity, if it doesn't feel good, it's evil and it's shunned. Yeah. And if you try and bring something up to the wrong person, you're gonna get in trouble for it. Right. And like it's a crappy world out there. And like I've seen this happen. Heck, I've even seen old old Christian movies. Like, I don't know if you ever seen any like Christian movies from like the 70s and 80s. Whew, what a trip. What a trip. Like if you're struggling through this, if you're struggling through purity, you are the bad guy. Right. Like it blows my mind. Right. Like, you're the bad guy because you're lost in this. Right. We are all lost in this. Like starting out, we are lost in this, dude. Yeah. Like, and like the only winning way to get out of it is to either bury it or just accept the fact that this will always be a part of your sinful nature. Right. And like, where is that in the Bible, dude? Yeah. Yeah. Where is that?
It's nowhere.
Like,
nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think I used this illustration in one of my talks that I'm going to do, but it's what we have developed this into is like handing someone a guitar and expecting them to know how to play it. Yeah. Without any teaching, without any lessons, without like any chord structure or notes or any musical knowledge, and being like, all right, kid, figure it out.
And you're kind of like, what's that word? What's that word? It's almost like, I don't know. I'll try and give the definition, but you're handed the guitar and you're like, Christians play guitar, right? Right. Christians are good at playing guitar, right? Yeah. And you're kind of just like, kind of guilt tripping into them. It's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. I should be able to know how to play guitar. Yeah. So you're trying to figure it out when you're sounding bad, when you're playing it bad. You're like, no, that's bad. Right. That's taboo. Right. Why? What are you doing?
Be struggling. I can't not know something.
Right.
Like, I should have figured this out innately. I should just know.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if you read the Bible, people just don't innately know. Like, they know what right and wrong is. They know they're doing it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a bad note.
Mm-hmm.
But like, that's why Jesus came. He came so we could learn righteousness. Like, we would have a way to learn. We would have a way to get to righteousness. And like, it just from the get go, humanity messed it up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Cain and Abel, like, there's murder right there. A couple chapters in, and then there are some really messed up sexual things in the Bible. Like, clearly humanity doesn't just figure this out well on their own. Like, we need to have this conversation with God first. Like, what does purity look like? And I said this tonight to the kids, like, purity for the most part is an internal thing. Like, I can't say that you're doing this wrong unless I like catch you watching pornography or in something else, which would be terrible.
Right.
But like, it's an internal thing. Only God would know. And he could call you out on stuff that you wouldn't, maybe somebody else or you wouldn't even think is impure. But God would say, hey, that's not pure for you. That's not purity for you. So it's like, we need to have this conversation and broaden the conversation from, just don't do it. Which is what I was raised with. It's like, just don't do it. Just don't have sex. Just don't look at pornography. Okay, cool. Like, anything else? Like, because I'm just like, there's so many things that are not pure. Like, you can do a lot of impure things before you get to sex. But we're not saying that. So it's like, I don't know. There's just so much to this that we're not doing. And it's pretty frustrating when you're like, because we all complain. We all complain about where culture is at the moment. Like the Grammys, right? It's like, oh, Sam Smith is worshiping the devil, blah, 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 blah. Oh, they're wearing this, men are wearing that. It's like, okay, yeah, that's because we haven't been having conversations.
Right.
That's because we have abdicated our role. We're actually here on earth to set an example and have conversations of like, this is actually what's right. And we've given this entire area up. We've just been like, Mommy, how did I get here?
Oh my gosh. I hate, like, that's like one of the first lies that kids are told. Besides Santa, that's one of the first lies. Oh, how did I get here? How was I born? Or that's not, they don't even say that. Just, how did I get here? Oh, we found you. Superons.
We went to the baby store.
Yeah, just you're sitting in the dairy aisle. You're like, sure, we could go. We could have a kid. Yep. It's like, come on, man. Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Right.
Sorry, that's
But so that's kind of the intro, but that we need to have these conversations. But tonight I talked about just how self-awareness is actually, I think it's the first step in your plan for purity. Because when you are self-aware, you know what your needs are. I think a lot of the problem is that that kids are filling needs in the wrong places. Right? Like, pornography is filling a need. It's the wrong source, but it's filling a need. Like for girls, like fantasy is filling a need. They're wanting affection. They're wanting, sex is filling a need. Because let's be honest, guys, like everyone watching, parents watching, there's more sex happening than you would be ever comfortable ever. And, I'm a Christian, but if I have girls, so help me. So, like having that self-awareness of what are my needs? Like, oh, I feel like watching this right now. Like I open my phone. Oh, I liked that image. What's my actual need right now?
Right.
What makes me angry? What makes me upset? What makes me happy? What makes, like, because if you're actually getting your needs met in a healthy way and you've had these conversations about sexuality, it completely disarms the interest,
Right.
right? It's actually the absence of these conversations and the absence of self-awareness that brings you to those sources, right? Because if I'm getting the affection, the attention, the adventure, the physical activity, and I'm making goals, and my life is exciting, and I have I'm close with the Lord. I have good relationships, I'm not wondering, oh, what is this sex stuff about? What is pornography about? What is, because kids are just curious. They want to know.
Right.
And so if we're actually doing that, and if we're actually building that into our systems, into our lives of like, oh, I know what I need. I know who I am. Because like for the most part, like I said tonight, most people are just very unaware of themselves. We don't know what we like. We don't know what we're good at. We don't know what we actually want to be doing. And we can go whole stages of life with straight being entertained. We have so much entertainment in our life. We have so much entertainment and access in our life where we could, dude, I'm so guilty, man. I could be on my phone for so long.
Yeah.
Just being entertained with stuff I actually genuinely don't even need to care about. Like it's stupid. And then I'll go from my phone to a TV show.
Right.
And then I can go from my TV show to a video game. And then I can go from my video game to a book. I haven't produced anything. I just straight up being entertained. I think there's people that have gone years just being entertained. I realized this a while ago when I fasted, like entertainment, TV and video games entertainment, like that kind of screen stuff. I realized, I was like, wow, there's been so much of my life where like I just didn't do anything. Like we're so and I didn't produce anything because we don't need to. We're living off of other people's work, other people's creativity,
Right.
other people's capacity to produce things, and just getting fat off of it and being lazy. And that doesn't do good things for you, like really. Because at the end of your life, you're not going to be like, oh, I'm so glad that I saw every episode of The Office 10 times. Right? Like, you're not. But there's things like, oh man, I wish I had written that book. Oh, I wish that I pursued music more, or I wish I traveled more, or any option of actual like producing in life. Right? I think there's so much of that. And what happens is then you don't actually have any time to know yourself. Like I was like, okay, let's make a plan. You got to journal. I don't think a lot of adults journal. I don't think a lot of kids journal. And the point of journaling isn't like people. I mean, growing up, I always saw journaling as feminine. I don't know why. It doesn't actually make sense when you read history. It's full of a lot of dudes.
I know a lot of kids shows. If there's going to be journaling involved,
it's girls.
It's going to be like girls. A diary.
Yeah,
and there's like sparkles, pink.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
But like being that's for me where self-awareness has really had kind of grown fruit. It's like because I shared today, like some days I'll sit down and journal out some thoughts, and I'm like, wow, I didn't even know that was in there. That's amazing. That's why I was angry that time. Like that's why I've been upset. I didn't know that bothered me that much because we just don't take the time to figure out Like, we don't take the time to know ourselves, let alone to actually know each other. That's a big deal. I didn't even plan on saying that, but that's real, right?
And when, and if you fail to realize the importance of knowing yourself, we read in the Bible the importance of loving yourself.
Right.
How do you love yourself if you don't know yourself?
Exactly.
It's like,
yeah. And how do you know what your needs are when you don't even know you?
mm-hmm.
And so then you're like, you're on pilot mode, being entertained, filling these trying to fill needs you're not even aware of,
Right.
which leads to so many issues. Not even just in a purity level, but like so many issues. Like, I mean, we push ourselves too much, we get sick.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we get bitter because we're burnt out, but we're not even aware of it. And so we're angry at all these people for not doing as much as you are. But it's like, nobody asked you to do life the way you're doing it. Like, you're in charge of yourself. But this happens so often in the Christian world.
It's almost like you're trying to prove to yourself that you love yourself and ignoring the guilt feeling of not actually knowing yourself.
Right. Yeah. You know, and like just doing things that we don't even actually care about. We don't actually want to do this. We don't actually want to be working in the field we're working. We don't actually want to go to this school. We don't, you know how many times that it's a part of people's stories, like, oh, I went to this school because my parents wanted me to, but I didn't really want to.
Right.
Or like, you know what I mean? And then they're stuck in this field that they never actually wanted to do. I was like, man, wouldn't that be better if we like knew about that, like, I don't know, 10 years ago before you went to college? So, just the necessity of knowing who you are, knowing what your gifts are, knowing what your capacity is, what you like, what your desires are, what your dreams are, what you're actually good at, what you're bad at. Like, what are your triggers? Why are those things triggering you? What happens? What triggers you to go to those bad sources?
Right.
You know, we desperately need self-awareness to know those things. First of all, as adults, we need to model that for our kids. But we need to start building that structure in them and having those conversations. I think that's where it starts, because you can give them the information of why pornography and having sex before marriage is a bad idea. But unless you give them a way to like implement that, it's really not going to, obviously. I mean, how many years have that been the strategy, and how successful has it been? I feel like it has not been very successful.
Right.
I mean, dude, I went to ministry school, man. I went to ministry school. Everyone loves the Lord, supposedly, right? Everyone came there for Jesus. So many people that I know are having babies and they're not married. And I'm just like, how is this happening? Right? Like, how is this happening? I'm like, oh man, you're not aware of yourself. You're not knowing what your needs are. If you got to the point where you were having sexual relations with somebody, there's a need there that you did not meet like months ago in a healthy way, because you got to the point of sinning, basically, to fit that need, to fill that need. And so I think that is like, ooh, bing. That is, I think that's where it starts. I think that's where it should start. Because like I said earlier, there's so much more to it than just not having sex. Because you can not have sex, not have sex, not have sex, not have sex. And then boom, you have sex. Over. You failed. What do you do now? What were you doing before that you know what I mean? Like, so I think that's important. Any more thoughts on self-awareness and purity? I'd like to hear your perspective.
With me, there wasn't a whole lot. It was mainly just, I knew it was wrong, and I kind of filled in the gaps of why it was wrong. So
Right.
I kind of gave myself a talk, more like guilt filled talk.
Yeah.
Because like growing up, the best way to tell somebody about Jesus is you're trying to be the converter. So guilt and shame
Right.
is the main tools for that sort
Yep.
of situation. So I did that to myself, and
Right.
I caused a lot of hurt for myself.
Yeah.
Like so much.
Yep.
And because I never had that well of information, place for questions, answers, and all
Right.
that, I was hungry and I didn't know why.
Right.
I'm hungry. I don't know what type of food I need. I know I
Yeah.
need it.
Right.
I don't know where it is. So I went to all the bad places.
Right.
I went to every single fast food restaurant I could find. The greasiest burrito,
Yeah.
the cheesiest pizza, whatever I could find, I got it. I got
Yeah.
my hands on it. And it was never satisfying. And
Right.
I always I I remember conversations I would have with God. I'd be like, yo, why am I so messed up?
Yeah.
Why am I so broken like this? Why do I crave this? I'm
such a sinful person.
Such a simple person, right? I'm like,
So disgusting.
am I really your child? Like,
Right.
no, this is like like I would always convince myself, like, no, and then that would put me deeper. Like that
Right.
would make me fit that puzzle, that
Right.
messed up puzzle. I would chip away at the piece that I am.
Yeah.
And I would force myself into that puzzle, like, okay, yeah, I do fit this. And then when those pieces start growing back, because I'm not supposed to be there, I pop back out. I'm like, okay, yeah, I know I'm not supposed to be here, but where am I supposed to go?
Right.
So like, and that was my entire childhood.
Right. And you then got caught into a shame cycle.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so many people get into that. And so instead of like then being like, okay, it's like shame actually pulls you deeper into sin,
It does.
into that
It
stuff.
does. It
Because
really
you're like,
does.
oh, I'm already filthy. I'm already disgusting.
You're fulfilling your self-fulfilled prophecy.
Right.
Like,
And you're like, well, this feels good then, so I'm just going to do it. Right. Like that's what happens 100% of the time. And then you feel more shameful and more disgusting. So to make yourself feel better, you go back to that source again.
mm-hmm.
This is the devil's playground. And so that's happening so often in so many ways
Mm-hmm.
in Christianity, but when it comes to purity, very much so. And it's like we need to get ahead of those things so we don't need to be stuck in, like, our kids don't have to be stuck in shame cycles.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people don't need to be stuck in shame cycles. It's like, oh yeah, okay, you did that. Okay, what were you actually needing? Yeah. But I think you hit another good point. Is like you were hungry and you didn't know why you were hungry.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even know.
Yeah.
We don't even have the conversation of like, hey man, like, dude, you're actually you're a sexual being. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you were made for this. So it's okay. This is how you handle this right now. Like, you're not there yet. It's okay. Like, you're not evil because you have these desires. This is how you're made.
Right. Like, you shouldn't feel sorry for yourself for being hungry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm sorry. I have to eat.
Yeah.
So do I.
Right.
Cool. Welcome to the club.
Right.
You're a human.
Yes.
Like, yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh, one thing. I don't know if I'm backtracking, but one thing that you said that I think is important to say again is knowing your boundaries.
Yeah.
Knowing what triggers you, and knowing the fact that everybody's different with their own
Right.
boundaries. Like,
Yeah.
my boundaries are different than your boundaries.
Yeah.
Like, what can set me off may not set you off.
Right.
You might do, but for me, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, so that I think is important to be said, because like that just equips you with another tool in your tool belt.
Right.
Knowing what triggers you. So now you don't do it.
Right.
like okay, yeah, it's getting to that point in the day where it's like I'm getting kind of tired. It's like
Right.
I'm not. You know what? I'm strong. Nothing will happen. That's a lie.
Yeah.
That is a straight up lie. That is a good lie you told yourself.
Right.
Guess what?
Yeah.
You're gonna fall.
Right.
As soon as you get done lying to yourself, you're gonna fall, and then you're gonna feel bad right after, and then you're gonna go back to that shame cycle.
Right.
Guess what? Make a boundary.
Yeah.
All right. See that time? You see that time on that clock? You know what time it is. It's time for you to shut that down. Okay.
Yep.
Read a book. Or if it's late enough, go to bed.
Yeah.
Get ready for bed. Brush your teeth. Take a shower.
Go
My
to
guy.
sleep.
Go to sleep. Close
You know
your
how many
eyes.
stupid things happen because you should just be sleeping?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
So many stupid things.
every stupid thing.
Like, you just need to be sleeping. You should go to
Right.
sleep. And that is especially true for teenagers.
Right.
Like, you should just, no, you need to go to sleep. Like, no, you don't need to be on the internet. You don't need to be talking to your friends. Actually, it's 11 o'clock at night. You don't need to be texting anybody. You don't
Like my favorite, I used around like 6, I would usually go outside and have my conversation with God, my argument with God, whatever, just spending some God time.
Yeah.
And so, like I remember a lot of conversations would just get so heated because I would stay out there like all night. Like I wouldn't come back inside till like 1 a.m. usually. And like I could tell you right then and there, a lot of the times whenever I was like just so upset and just yelling is because, I was tired.
Yeah.
It's midnight, bro.
Yeah.
I
Go
got
to
school
sleep.
in the morning.
Yeah.
Like,
And you have your brain function, your ability to have like cognitive, like, okay, no, this is a bad idea, goes down so fast. I
Mhm.
like the later it gets, the dumber you get.
right.
Like, teenage boys, listen up, and anyone, men, women. The later it gets, the dumber you get. Like the less willpower you have. Your boundaries, like it's this weird thing. They just like start to melt away. That's why you remember having sleepovers as friends when you were kids, and it's like, man, we're just friends, like kind of awkward. Like that first sleepover, it's past midnight, nobody's sleeping, and then you just open up about all this like deep, dark stuff that you never shared to anybody, and you're like, why is this happening?
Either that or you start doing dumb things.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. But it's like, because all of your boundaries, all of your ability to like, no, that like, let's not talk about that. Like they
Right.
just go away.
mhm.
They just go away. It's like, oh yeah, we shouldn't be doing this. Let's do it anyway. That's what happens.
It makes sense why you usually find drunk people at night.
Yep. Exactly.
It's like, why is that? Well, the later the day, the dumber you get, the more
Susceptible.
susceptible to
Bad choices.
bad choices, bad
And then
decisions.
alcohol doesn't help either.
Mm.
That like
Yeah, and
amplifies it.
Yeah, literally. Like it is fuel for the flame.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, because like for the boundary thing, and knowing the boundaries and knowing what triggers you actually can help you from going into the shame cycles. Like I remember working at American Eagle, and I would do the overnight shifts where you change the whole store, so you have to like change the walls and the displays and everything. And so I would a lot of times not get home till like 3-4 in the morning.
Mm.
We start at like closing time, like 9:30 or 10. And that was a point in time where I went to school, then I went to my job, and then I went to that job after that. So like super, like just going, and just getting tired. And it's American Eagle. So
Mhm.
I work with beautiful people, right?
I mean, I've never been to an American Eagle, but
You've never been to American Eagle ever?
No.
Oh man. Well,
I take your word for it though.
yeah, I mean, they usually hire attractive people, right? Because they want to sell their clothes. And so they hired me.
You come on, son.
Come on, son. But, I'm working late at night, and the majority of the people I work with are women because it's American Eagle. Like, yeah, they have guys' clothes, but only guys buy those clothes because either their girlfriends buy them or they like style. And so either and then so the guys that worked there, half of them were gay too. So that was the whole thing. Anyway, super funny. So many stories. So it's late at night. It's like 2 a.m. anyway. I'm working with this girl, and then she's on the ladder, right? And she's wearing short shorts, and you just have the thought like, oh, she's hot, whatever. And I was like, okay, I'm like having self-awareness. I'm like, it's just late at night, and I'm having these thoughts. It doesn't have to be a thing. Like, I don't have to take these thoughts any longer. Like, I don't have to go anywhere with these.
Right.
These don't actually have to, I don't have to be shameful about it. It's like, dude, you're just tired, and there was a pretty girl on a ladder. That's all that happened. Just leave it. But if that had happened, like, I don't know, a couple years ago, I would have gone into a whole shame cycle and gone even further with it. And it would have been like a horrible day for me. All because somebody stood on a ladder.
Yeah, just notice like
Yeah.
that power. Like,
Right.
Dude,
Yeah.
when you know yourself,
Yes.
look how powerful you are, bro.
Right. Yes.
Like when you don't know yourself, dude, like that could have went from a 5-second thing to who knows how long.
Right.
A day, a week, a month.
Yeah.
Being slave to that.
Right.
Like, dude.
Yeah.
Power.
Because of a thought.
Yeah.
I mean, it could even, like, theoretically, it could even gone worse because, like, I'm an attractive person, right? Like, I could have done something really stupid because it's not like people in the world don't have super high, like, morals, right?
Right.
Like, her and I could have done something because I let that thought rule I was like, oh, so I should act on this thought. No, like, I'm just tired. I need to go to bed. It's super late and I don't need to deal with this. This is nothing. Right? Because in actuality, I wasn't attracted to that person. Like, there was nothing about that person that was like actually like, yeah, I really want to be with you. No, it was just that it was late at night. She's a pretty person, right? Like, there was nothing actually there for me.
Right.
It was just, nope, tired, need sleep. This happened. Okay, moving on. And that was that. And I was like, wow, that's different. I was like, that was like a genuine moment of like, oh, I'm like kind of proud of myself for working through that. All internally. No one has ever really actually heard that story. Like, that was all just an internal thing where it's like, oh, but I was taught that. Like, I was taught to work through, like, thoughts don't actually have to be a thing for you. Like, that was just a thought. That doesn't have to be yours. Like, you don't have to own that. You can be like, okay, that was weird. Right. You know? And like the even just the conversation of like, okay, so you're tired. So you're going to have, things are going to affect you differently. Like, I was taught that. I was like, oh, wow, that's a good point. Like, oh, you actually have needs that need to be met in a healthy way. Like, that desire, that thought, that lustful thought, oh, that's a need that you have somewhere in there that's not being met. Like, you need a good source for that. You need companionship, or you need an adventure, or like that's actually like a big draw to the whole, like, all this crap, right? Like the pornography, all of this, sexual promiscuity, all that stuff. It's an adventure. Right. And kids are freaking bored. Listen, video games are not as exciting as everyone would like to believe. Kids are bored. They actually want adventures, like real adventures. Like, I remember, I think maybe you've heard this story because I shared it with you.
That makes sense.
I worked at Jimmy John's. My first job was Jimmy John's. And so I'm working with a bunch of like 20-year-olds, 20-year-olds, mid-20-year-olds. And I think the oldest person was like 28 or something like that. But they're all having a conversation one day. And this super nerdy dude, like string bean, greasy hair, like super pasty white dude, was like, yeah, I went hunting the other day and I was doing this. I'm like, wait, what? You went hunting? I said this to him. He's like, no, not really, on Skyrim.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, bro. I was like, in my head, I didn't say this out loud because I'm like, I try to be a nice person, but I was like, internally, I was like, dude, and it was crazy because like just a couple weeks before I had bought in Skyrim because it was intriguing to me. I was like, I could get into this. When that dude said that, I was like, I can't do this. I was like, dude, you're 25. Like you could actually go hunting. You could go hunting and like actually kill a deer. Like you could go bow hunting in real life and it would be like attractive. Like a woman would be like, oh, that's awesome. You could provide for me. Like that's a cool skill. But you did it in Skyrim and then you decided to share it. Like you had an actual experience. I was devastated. That changed my whole mindset on video games in general. I'm like, I still play video games. I do. I still enjoy them. Everybody. I still enjoy video games. But I was like, I need to take a step back here. We need to actually have real experiences. Like, bro, like once you get to the point where you can have real, and especially for like young men, there has been a complete shift of what like boyhood looks like. Nowadays, boyhood looks like you're just playing video games. You're talking to people online. You're all in that world almost 100% of the time. And it used to be like the opposite. Like sometimes you play video games. Now it's like sometimes you go outside. Like sometimes you have real life experiences.
Right.
And it's like it's not fulfilling people's actual need as much as we would think it is. Hence why the amount of time increases because it's not quality. So you need to add more time to the amount, like to have the effect that you need. But it's not. It's the same thing with like substance abuse or pornography or something like that. It's like your endorphins aren't getting triggered enough, so it becomes more and more and more and more and more and more. And so it's like, oh man, we need just to have self-awareness and actual experiences, actually going outside, actually having adventures, and not talking at your job when you're 25 about your hunting in Skyrim.
Skyrim though, like I can literally think of like 2 games where it would have been at least a little better. Still not talking to somebody about it, but at least for yourself, you feel okay about it because it's realistic. But Skyrim, Skyrim, bro, there are vampires and werewolves in Skyrim.
Yeah, man.
That
was a real part of my experience. It actually, I was like, man,
it is
because I was it's a cool game, right? But like, it can take your whole life.
Yeah.
If you're not careful, it could take your whole life. And I was just like, I was like just starting my 20s, and I was like, I could actually go hunting if I really wanted to. Maybe I should actually just like do that instead of.
Honestly, the only thing you can brag about a video game is how difficult it is.
Yeah.
Like when people play like Dark Souls. I've never played Dark Souls because I enjoy playing games. I don't want to suffer. So, but like we're like, oh yeah, I beat all the Dark Souls without dying all the way through from first game to the third game.
Right.
I'm like, dude, that's insane.
Yeah. But imagine if you had put all of that energy into something that mattered.
Building a table.
Something
you could build a really nice table with the amount of hours.
Something, that's what changed my perspective. Is like, I put a lot of hours into this. Like, if I were to like really enjoy this game, I'd have to put a lot of hours in it.
I don't know how many miles I walk. I usually go by like hours. But I start thinking like putting, let's say, 5 hours in a game versus 5 hours outside.
Yeah.
I can think of so many different, like the variety of doing stuff outside for 5 hours versus the variety of doing something in a game.
Yeah.
You're still playing that same game, even if there are other things to do in that game. But like in real life, you can have a little adventure here, a big adventure here, another little adventure here, just sprinkled out.
Right.
And like Like that. I mean, that's what the brain craves.
Right.
But like, I don't know what lie we tell ourselves. I don't know if it's like, oh, we can't do that in real life, or like,
Yeah.
nah, I don't actually have the time. Actually, I
Right.
thought I had 5 hours, 4 hours. No, actually, I actually have zero time. I have no time in my life for that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's a sprinkle of all that.
I think it's like the easier option. It's just
Yeah.
to stay home in your pajamas
It's
and
just
play video
lazy.
games. Because it's socially
laziness.
acceptable.
Right. Yeah.
It's like it is the normal
Mm.
that kids just, I mean, and adults, honestly, can just stay home.
Heck, I enjoy my time at home in PJs. Okay.
Oh, I do too.
Like,
Yeah.
you know those the monkey ninja PJs I wore at the.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I freaking love those, bro.
Right.
So comfy, dude.
Right.
Watching a movie or a show wearing that.
Right.
Ooh. Eating ice cream, bro. Ooh, dude, that's heaven.
But even okay, so like the whole self-awareness thing. Having the like, okay. So, okay, when I lost my job in 2020 because of the great COVID crisis of 2020
Mm-hmm.
and the great idea to just lock everything down.
Oh, so great.
2 weeks to stop the spread.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
You're triggering me right now.
Yeah. I triggered everybody, actually. I'm triggered myself. I hate... Oh, that wasn't even true. Anyway.
Continue.
Continue. I lost my job, right? Super weird. I have never been fired. Never... Like, any job I left, it was on my terms.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, just having a lot of emotions that I didn't know what to deal with. And I had so much time on my hands.
Mm-hmm.
And all I wanted to do was play Call of Duty. And I just kept wanting to play this game. And it's like, I have the time, blah, blah, blah. It was good for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was like, wait, like, why am I constantly just wanting to play this game? And what I realized was, I was escaping to a time that, like, that was what I did. Like, when I was young, like, I just loved to play Call of Duty. Life was simple.
Mm-hmm.
Like, first Modern Warfare was, like, the peak of, like, my childhood. I was like, this is, like, right? Like, it was such a great time in my life.
Right.
And so I was actually escaping, like, the awkward pain, all of the things that were going on. Because, I mean, at that time, there was a lot of things to make you mad.
Yeah.
And I had all the time in the world to be mad because I had no job. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times it's like, why am I wanting to just sit here and continually be entertained, like continually escape? What am I trying to get away from? So, like, in a way, that's still purity. Like, if you're just wanting to escape what's happening, you're not dealing with something. You're not dealing something that the Lord wants you to deal with. You're not dealing with reality of life. You're not dealing with what's actually happening in you. That affects you. That affects your ability to continue to be pure, right? Because you're upset. You're upset, you're sad, you're hurting, which is you're gonna turn into bitter, angry, or whatever, which is not pure. And so when, kids wanting to do this forever, like making this acceptable to play video games for like days at a time, or watching this for days at a time, being on your phone for days at a time, or whatever, it's setting them up for failure.
Right.
It's setting them up for, like I said, like, it doesn't take any work to find women and exposed women on any platform ever.
Right.
Like, I mean, I get friend requests from these women like every couple of days. You too, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's like every. I'm like, dude, whoa.
Facebook, Instagram, all
like,
of it.
not a real person, not a real person. Like, he's just like, but it takes no effort, and these kids are like, oh well, whatever, right? Like, we're not teaching them like the effects that this actually has on your brain, on your soul, on your spirit. Like, this is why it doesn't actually this is not going to end well. So just like broadening that conversation of what purity looks like, because a lot of times we're vegging out. We're escaping something, which I'd never thought of it as not being pure, but it really is. You're allowing something in there to grow and fester and get all nasty up in there.
Mm-hmm.
Deep thoughts. So, any more thoughts? Main man, Philip?
Any more thoughts? Nothing new. Nothing new to bring up.
Cool. So, have those conversations, develop self-awareness, primarily in your life, and then help. If you're a youth kid, get help with that with somebody who's safe. Your parents are always a good resource. Reach out to your mentors. Find a mentor. Get connected in youth group. And a great resource for this whole conversation is Moral Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
So go follow them on Instagram, Facebook, wherever you surf the internet. They have a great website, many resources. Parents, many resources on there. They even have a whole teaching on how to talk to your kids about sexuality. Highly recommend doing that. And develop that within you so it becomes a culture that you actually know yourself. You know what makes you come alive, what's really hard for you. All of these things, they're so effective in keeping us on the right track. Like and subscribe, comment, hit up the comment section of what you would like to hear more of. We're going so the whole month of March is going to be purity. I have a bunch of talks coming up with the youth group, which we'll hit on as we go. But if there's conversations you would like to have on this podcast, we have no rules. We can not talk about what we talked about on Wednesday if there's a great comment and a great subject that we want to hit on, because you know what? Those kids heard what we talked about. So we have all the buttons we can push.
Every single button.
That's right. All right. Jesus, I pray that you help us become more self-aware. You help us build that structure in our life and give us the ability to have these conversations about purity, about sexuality, and we begin to actually deal with these things and take back this conversation from the world, from the enemy that is corrupting so much of our lives and of our culture. And we just pray for courage for each person, for each youth kid that's listening, and to each parent to really step into this with courage and decide that this is going to stop. We're not going to be shameful about sexuality, about sex, and we're going to create a safe culture where we can go after purity together. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, till next time.
Ka-chow.
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 Ka-chow. Wow.
Wow.
That's so cool.
Wow.
I never knew that purity was such a wonderful thing.
John Wayne, that's a terrible cowboy.
You know what? I'm gonna write a book about a car, and his name is McQueen. Totally original, and he's gonna be like this superstar. and what's gonna happen is and what's gonna happen is he's gonna find the real world. He's gonna realize that life is not all about the racetrack. It's about the track of life.
Wow, does he go to a small town?
A small town, yeah.
Wow. Does he find another attractive car?
With a tattoo on her body.
Wow. She's got a crack.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, right around back. Kids.
Wow.
Actually,
A kid's book has a car with a tattoo. Wow. That's super risky.
It is,
wow.
actually. But don't worry. Aki Chan himself terrified. It's okay.
Does this car have a nose that looks like it's been broken 50 times? And also slightly like the male version of Ellen DeGeneres?
Yes, actually, wow. You know what? If this ever becomes a movie, I'm going to have to contact her. She would be perfect.
Oh my gosh, you're doing so well.
Thanks, Loki.
Has he been in a movie in any, like, I feel like I haven't seen him in, like, years.
If anything, I think the latest movie would probably be Shrek, right? Donkey?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably the latest one, probably.
But, like, live action, I don't think he's been in, like...
Well, he moved from live action to animated, right? Oh, no, he did have a couple... He did the Haunted Mansion.
Well, he did a lot, like, back in the day. He was in a lot of comedy movies.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, the difference between, like, live action and animated.
Oh, whoops.
Oh, we forgot to do that.
Bummer.
Dang.
Oh, wait, ladies and gentlemen, I'm too quiet. I can't hear myself. Welcome to the podcast. Pass the OJ, settle down, get some popcorn. Your wife is texting you. I don't know if you're aware.
What else is good for podcasts? Cheez-Its. Dude, actually, Cheez-Its. I'm actually not a fan of Cheez-Its. But okay, I say that. I had a bad experience with Cheez-Its. So I don't actually hate it. I'm just mentally not prepared to enjoy it quite yet.
This is like another trail mix experience.
Yeah, but by myself. I think it was like Parmesan or something like that, and it just didn't sit well. I didn't end up throwing up, but I did just was not okay.
Got it.
Yeah, freaking Cheez-Its. Where did I get it? I think it was during the time when the POC. Those days when we had the food thing. I don't actually know what it was. I just know that we got food. Yeah, good times. Actually, the one chip that I do love is it's like the wheat wafer. I don't know what it's called, but like
Wheat? No.
it's not wheat.
Sun
thin.
chips.
Sun chips? Those are good. Not what I'm thinking of. It's more like if you look at it, it looks healthy. It probably isn't healthy, but it looks healthy. It's kind of like the cereal, the white top.
Wheat thins?
It's like that, but a cracker.
Yeah, wheat thins.
Oh, that's what it is?
I think so.
Yeah.
Or Triscuits.
Triscuits! That's what it is! Yes!
The
Triscuits.
claw.
Dude, I just had a revelation. Are the aliens Mexican? Dude, no, seriously though. Like, okay.
This is super racist.
No, but dude, think about it, okay? Their accents. Is it not a hint of Mexican? And the fact that they're aliens. The fact that they don't want to stay where they are.
The
Okay.
mechanics.
They are hard workers, bro. Dude.
They do the jobs none of the other toys want to do.
Literally. Like Toy Story 3, they know how to operate a freaking crane. What other toy knows how to do that? What other toy has that level of ambition to work hard at a thing that they shouldn't even, like, a crane? They're a toy. I don't know. That was my revelation. I had it at work. I randomly did that, and then I realized I had an accent. I'm like, what type of accent did I have? And I was like, was it Mexican? So that I did, like, and like,
That
it
is kind
sounds
of
a little Mexican.
Yeah, it does.
So maybe we just exposed Disney. That cookie was roasted.
That cookie was baked.
Baked over an open fire.
That was so
'Cause you're
hot and gooey.
Hot and gooey. I could go for a hot and gooey cookie right now. Oh my gosh.
Even though we just had like a bunch of chocolate chips.
Dude, I had a cinnamon roll at Cinnabon. It was the first time I ever went.
What?
So good.
Wow.
I know.
That's amazing.
So okay, fun story. Why did I go to the mall? Oh yeah, it was because I was looking to see if I could get Caleb something else, and I was hungry, but like I wasn't. I was exploring because like I was like I don't know what I'm hungry for. I'm probably just gonna stop at Quick Trip, but I'm just gonna explore and see what's here. And so I stopped at the Cinnabon, and I was like looking at the menu, but like I knew that I didn't.
Dude, I'm sorry.
What?
I have to go.
Okay, I'll hurry up. Okay, so it was like it's so close. It's so quick. Okay, I didn't know what that I thought I wasn't gonna get anything, but I just wanted to check it out. And so I stood there for like a solid 5 minutes, and I probably scared the crap out of the people working there because I'm just a tall dude just looking at the menu, not ordering anything, and then I walk away. So that's a fun story. Okay, we can stop. We can stop.
This black dude staring at us.
He won't go. We can't call security because that's racist.
I'm uncomfortable, but I feel racist because I feel uncomfortable. I'm sorry for being white.
Come on.
All right, we good? We ready?
We're good.
We're recording.
We are golden. Hold up. Testing.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Hello.
Test. Yep.
Tap,
Okay.
tap, yep.
We got it. We got
Okay.
it. We get good. Okay, cool.